Hey guys, I'm about to enter my 4th year of ownership of this awesome Tenere 700. I thought it might be a good idea to do a bit of a bike talk. Mostly I want to go over the bits and pieces, accessories and whatnot that I've added to the bike and how they've held up over the years so far. Thought it might be handy for any of you guys that have T7s and are thinking about adding certain bits and pieces and looking for a bit of feedback on what I have on mine. So yeah, next month, which will be May 2023, that will mark 3 years that I've owned this beauty, and in that time we have racked up 35,000 Ks, so I'm actually only 5,000 Ks away from that dreaded 40,000 kilometre valve check. Not looking forward to that, but I will be having a crack at doing that myself. But overall, aside from the little air filter shenanigans that you might have seen in a previous video, this bike has been absolutely trouble-free. It's been cheap and easy to maintain. I've been doing 5,000 kilometre like clockwork oil and filter changes, and they're just so easy. Because they are so easy to do, it makes it less of a chore and you're more likely to actually do it on time. Basically oil, tyres and fuel is all you need to spend on this thing to get to this many kilometres anyway. I did do a set of wheel bearings and also chain and sprockets, which is more sort of preventive maintenance than what really needed doing. But I will go over most of the accessories and stuff that I've added to the bike without hopefully going into too much detail. God knows I could sit here and talk about this all day, but I'll try and keep this video relatively short, under 2 hours at least. We'll start off with something simple, guys. The Doubletake mirrors that I got from Torimoto, they've been great. One thing I would complain about is these adventure mirrors come with these long metal ram arms, which are a little bit too big in my opinion. For the T7 anyway, they might suit other bikes a little bit better. I did try the genuine ram arms, which are about the same length as these, which are plastic. What I find is that over time, on rough tracks, these mirrors will sag. That you just can't get them tight enough. The plastic ones, this gap in here closes up. Once you've done that up to a certain extent, it won't go any further, so you can't get any more tightness on those ram balls. So basically what ends up happening is they don't end up being tight enough and the mirrors just move over rough terrain. Now you do want them to move, but not sort of while you're just riding. You want these to move when you drop the bike on them or whatever. So what I found were these aluminium alloy ram arms. They are just cheap Chinese things off Amazon. I'll put a link for them in the description, guys, but as you can see, there's a big gap in between there, so you can get quite a lot of torque on those balls, and you can tighten it up so much that they're not going to move. I can still adjust that, no problem, but they don't sag going over jumps and stuff on the bike. So yeah, definitely worth looking into those guys, and they don't weigh any more than the plastic ones. Another little change I've recently done is I've gone back to the Barkbusters handguards. You might have seen I had the Auxbeam X-Factor handguards on there. Now they were good, they looked good, they had much larger plastic, so cut down a lot more wind, but yeah, they bent just as easily as these. Every time a couple of times I've dropped the bike on those Auxbeam ones, the guards bent here inwards, and straightening them out was a real bitch. With these are my old Barkbusters. I've re-straightened these about 10 times, and they're quite easy to bend back into the right shape. With the Auxbeam ones, what happened in the end was they kinked where there was a hole drilled for the plastic things. Trying to straighten them last time, one kinked really bad, and it's really hard to get them back into the right shape and get them mounted up nice. So I got rid of those and put the trusty old Barkbusters back on, which don't look as good, but they're just functional. They work well. I actually just left the Auxbeam mounts on there, which are better than the Barkbuster ones, and just bolted that straight on. Now of course the Pro Taper Contour, I've got the Pastrana FMX ATV race bend handlebars. They've been really good. They have not bent yet. Bike's been dropped on them quite a lot. The hand grips, of course, are the ODI Rogue lock-on grips. As I've said 100 times before, the lock-on grips, man, they are the best. Get them, try them out. Trust me, you'll love them. You don't need grip glue or grip wire or anything. There's a small Allen key here that you tighten up to lock it on. If you want to take the grip off, you undo the Allen key and slide it off. they don't move, you know, they're solid, and you get a throttle tube on this side with different cams to fit different bikes. The WR one works perfectly with the Tenere 700, so lock-on grips, 100% awesome. Right, the next thing I'll mention, guys, is these SRC Adventure Moto Crash Bars. Now they are just, you know, you don't even think about them. They just sit there, they do their job. Every time I throw the bike on the ground, they protect everything. They haven't bent or moved once. They're just solid as. They're well mounted up here, cross braced at the bottom as well. They've got the protruding wing there, so that's what hits the ground the most. And you know, they've been fine, they've been really good. And of course the SRC headlight guard, which is metal, that thing has copped some rocks, but it has saved my $1,200 headlight a number of times. These fine metal bars, if a big rock hits that, they will bend in a little bit, which is fine. You know, you just pop this thing off, you don't even need any tools, pop it off, those rubber grommets there, and you can whack it with a hammer and straighten it out. Really highly worthwhile getting one of those, guys. They are quality. Got a couple of other little SRC bits and pieces. This is the rear ABS sensor protector. That's done its job just fine, and also the you know, the rear brake master cylinder protector guard thing. That's doing its job there. No worries at all. Now, of course, speaking of awesome essential protective gear, the bash plate from B&B, Australian made and designed, 5mm thick alloy. You know, you guys have seen this thing before. It is a beast. It has the linkage guard at the back there as well, which has taken a beating. This whole thing's copped it. I haven't had any massive hits on it, obviously, thankfully, because, you know, being a 200 kilo bike, real big hits are going to do damage. But yeah, it's protected me from a lot of little hits. It's taken quite a beating. Still holding up just fine. Then of course we've got the B&B tail tidy. That's another set and forget item. Installed that, you know, fairly soon after I got the bike. Looks awesome, does the job. Looks way better. It's a heap lighter than the stock tail on the bike. I've actually moved the number plate down. Normally it bolts up here. I've moved it down a little bit. Just gives me a little bit more protection from my own roost. There's the B&B compact rear rack. This thing is great. You know, it doesn't need to be removed to get the seat off. You know, it's a lightweight little rack, but yeah, it does perfect for my duffel on there. Love it. So yeah, B&B tail tidy and rear rack, and of course the bash plate. Really good quality Aussie stuff. Now I also have 3 items from Camel ADV. First one being the one finger clutch, which, as you can see, one finger, that thing is glorious. It is one of the must-have mods for the T7 in my humble opinion, guys. It just makes riding the bike that much more pleasurable. It has that, you know, that longer clutch arm, which reduces the weight of the pull and also increases the friction zone, which makes clutch modulation much easier. And you have 3 different holes where you can set it wherever you like. I've got mine in the middle. Now previously Camel didn't have one of these to fit with the OEM Yamaha Crash Bars, but now they do. It's a slightly shorter one, but still going to reduce your clutch pull by a significant amount. Of course, we also have the Camel ADV rear brake pedal, which is, you know, the fix, and it definitely is the fix for the rear brake on the T7. I've done a video on installing that and what I thought of it. It's great. It's an awesome addition as well. That reminds me, I need to check my rear brake pads, and they're not too bad. Bit of life left in those. And the final thing from Camel that I have over here is these Camel fork guards. So they're an aluminium piece that double-sided tapes onto your fork guards, of course, and stops the, you know, the bottom lug from snapping off, which is apparently quite common because this ABS plastic is pretty crap. So yeah, no dramas with that. They've taken a few hits, and I think having these on here, see, a lot of people have replaced this metal bolt here with a plastic bolt so that it shears off instead of ripping the bottom lug off your fork. But I think having this on here makes it not necessary to use a plastic bolt there, because you've got a fair bit of strength in that thing there. Steg Pegz, expensive-ish, but worth it. Obviously, you know what Steg Pegz do. You know, you lock your boots in there, reduces your arm pump. I've actually gone with 2 rubbers on mine. You can get, there's 3 different options. You've got 1, 2 or 3 rubbers. For these, I find that 2 is a good compromise. You get a nice lock without them sticking out too far and getting in the way. Okay, let's talk about air filters. Of course, I am running the Australian designed and made Funnelweb air filters, guys. Bloody awesome. Love them. They don't restrict the bike at all. That pyramid foam design can catch a lot more dust before you lose all your surface area. So I do have the the Funnelweb pre-filter here, as well as the main filter underneath that. Looks like it even keeps dragonflies out of your airbox. That's handy. While we're underneath the seat, I have a lithium battery here. Well worth it in my opinion, guys. Lightweight, lasts a lot longer, a lot more charge cycles. You just chuck it in and don't worry about it. I don't think there's anything else under the seat that's worth mentioning, although of course I do have the T7Rally.com seat joining kit, which of course joins the front and rear seats as one unit, so it's a lot easier to whip it off. The next thing I will mention is these USB ports here. As you can see, I have actually stuck this USB cable in with silicone and blocked off the other port. I can actually still see the voltage on that thing when the key's on. Now the reason I did that was it didn't matter what I did. I used to put tape over that when I washed the bike, just tape over the port, so I'd pull that plug out. But it would still get moisture either in the plug, because this cord's permanently attached to the bike, so it'd get water inside it, and I guess eventually corrode a little bit, and then it wouldn't charge properly. So doing it this way, I just put a little bit of electrical safe lubricant into that port before I plugged it in, and then sealed it up, and it's been perfect ever since. Every time I plug it into my phone or whatever, it is fast charging straight away. So yeah, that worked really well. Now if I had to go back in time and do it again, I probably would just go with one of these guys. This is an SAE, so it has an SAE plug down here, an SAE USB quick charger, and that cap actually is fairly waterproof. Like I pressure washed this bike without sealing that, and it's never got any water in there. So, and they're just so much easier to install to the bike. To get behind here to install that there is it's a major job pulling everything apart here. Pretty much equivalent to getting to an air filter on the old Africa Twin. These little ones, super easy and yeah, to install. All you need is a couple of zip ties or a bit of double-sided tape, and you can stick it anywhere. And yeah, that has one quick charge port as well. It is handy to have both. Obviously I've got a bit of redundancy there. If this one breaks or blows up or whatever, I've got a spare, so that I can at least keep my phone charged for navigation or whatever. These badass embroidered keyrings, of course, you can get on my shop, mvdbr.com. There's only a few of those left. Sneaky plug. So yeah, that's USB ports, guys. If you're charging GoPros and drone batteries and power banks and all that sort of shit, it is pretty important to have at least a couple of these. I used to just carry a plug-in cigarette lighter one that I could just pop in there as redundancy, but yeah, they're pretty unreliable and they seem to pop out on the rough tracks. Next up we have the Auxbeam auxiliary lights. These things have been great. Like, I don't ride in the dark a lot, but when I do get caught in the dark, man, these are so much better to have than just the stock headlight. So I just have mine wide in to come on with the high beams. Don't have to worry about an extra switch to turn them on or off or whatever. So they just come on with the high beams and light the road up like nothing else. So they're really good lights for the price. They're about a quarter the price of the Denalis or whatever the other good ones are, and they're holding up really well. They haven't leaked, got water in them or anything yet. I give them a pressure wash every time I wash the bike, and they're fine. Everything that I can find links for, guys, I will chuck in the description, so check it out if you're keen on any of this stuff. Next thing I'll mention real quick is this exhaust setup. A few of you guys are a bit skeptical about this thing when I put it on the bike, but it sounds bloody awesome. And it cost me about 35 bucks for that end can, and then I can't remember, it's about 50 bucks I think for this CB500X mid pipe, and yeah, a couple of hose clamps to bolt on the original stock heat shield, which it works really well. So yeah, I mean, that exhaust, well, it's done about 30,000 Ks now, and it's fine. A lot of people are whinging about this exhaust hanger bending. I have bent mine once, like it got knocked in gradually, and then eventually on a big drop it bent right in. I bent it back out, it's fine. If it snaps off at some point, I'll probably just weld it back up. Alright, we're getting to the end of it now, guys. The radiator guard is the OEM Yamaha genuine aluminium thing. It's been good, it's done its job, no dramas. I have had to take it off and whip out a whole bunch of grass seeds from the radiator a couple of times, but yeah, it's been fine. It's held up really well. Might be a little bit dark down here, but that's the OEM Yamaha chain guide. Highly recommended, even though, you know, if you guys saw that one particular video where my chain came off because of a small stick that was resting on my swing arm somehow, and yeah, the chain came off and bunched up in here and snapped off this particular mounting stud. I have seen it happen on a couple of other bikes. Luckily for me, it didn't rip a hole in the case, it just snapped the stud off. So yeah, it's not essential, obviously. You've still got 2 bolts that hold this sprocket cover on, so yeah, that's fine. But yeah, just don't assume that because you have a chain guide on that the chain cannot come off. It still can come off. So I'll just quickly talk about tyres, guys. Tyres, you know, it's a very subjective subject. Both the front and rear at the moment are due for changing out. They're pretty well both shagged. The front's pretty scalloped and bald. It is a GT 723. Now this tyre has 12,000 kilometers on it, so it has held up pretty well. I mean, it still works just fine. You know, I did a fairly muddy ride last weekend and it was fine. But yeah, I have another one to chuck on there, so that's going to get replaced. So yeah, 12,000 Ks, still grips. Obviously it's, you know, it's rooted by most people's standards, but anyway. Moving to the rear tyre, at the moment I have a Motors Desert HT 140. This tyre is shagged out in anybody's book. It's got no tread left in the centre there. This thing has done 6,500 kilometers, so 6,500. I only put this tyre on here, guys, because it was impossible to get Golden tyres at the time. As you guys probably know, I am supported by Golden Tyre. I love Golden tyres. They have boss grip. Unfortunately, the rear 723s, you only get about 3,000 to 4,000 Ks out of them, but they do grip. I mean, coming from the Goldens to this Desert HT, this thing is atrocious in pretty much everything except for sand and mud. So on hard packed dirt and most rocky sort of situations, it's not great at all, but it does have massive knobs on it when you get it. Like, it is a chunky freaking tyre, which kind of surprised me that it performed so poorly, but it is like a longer lasting tyre. Obviously 6,500 Ks is pretty good, you know, for the sort of riding that I've been doing on it. But yeah, it's getting changed back. I did manage to get myself a new set of GT 723 Golden tyres. So yeah, you can see these don't have huge knobs on them, but you know, they grip really well. It must be the rubber compound or something. And overall design, I will just quickly say too that this front is noisy, man. Like this, it's an adventure tyre, but I find it to be noisier on the road than actual enduro or motocross style tyres. Yeah, this tyre is noisy as, but it doesn't bother me too much because I'm always wearing earplugs when I'm on the road anyway. It's such a perfect day today. I thought, why not come out and do some laps of the local track, finish off this video in the big girl's natural environment where she loves to be. So now that we've talked a little bit about what sort of tyres I run and whatnot, I thought we'd finish off the video with everybody's favourite shit talk topic: fucking tyre pressures. What pressure do I run on the dirt? What pressure should I run on the fucking road? What do I air down to if I'm going on the sand?
miles out here. Now, what I'm about to say is 100% some fucking Gumby's opinion, right? Don't take it to the bank. Chances are it's bullshit. Whoa. But having said that, I'm not just, I'm not just talking out of my ass. I'm speaking from my experience with this bike and other bikes. Now, don't get me wrong, I am fully 100% aware of the advantages of low tyre pressures when it comes to grip. All my enduro bikes, I always ran the NewTek tubeless system. Now, I'm not talking about regular tubeless tyres. If you don't know about NewTek tubeless, go and Google it. But basically, it allows you to run really low tyre pressures, like 0. I used to run 0 up to like 5 or 6 psi in the rear tyre, and yeah, I can tell you right now that that gives you bulk grip, like unheard of grip. That tyre at those pressures, you're running 0 to 5 psi in an enduro tyre. On a lightweight enduro bike, that tyre just bags out, man, and it's got a massive surface area to grip, and it just molds around every little rock, and yeah, it grips really well. Having said that, a 200 kilo adventure bike is a completely different ball game. For starters, I don't think you can get tubeless to run on a 4-inch wide rim. Possibly they do have it, but you don't want to be running those sort of pressures on a bike that you're adventure riding on. You don't want to be running 5 psi in a tyre that you're, doing sections of highway at 110 kilometers an hour. You're going to fry the tyre really quick. So it really doesn't make sense for a bike like this unless you're just doing this sort of stuff on it and, not adventure riding. If you're just using it as an enduro bike, which you can do, I would probably put a 2.5 inch rim on the back, run 120 tyres, put tubeless in the back, off you go. But for me, it's an adventure bike. I do road, I do this stuff, a little bit of single track, dirt highways, whatever, So the tyre pressure scenario is a lot different. For me, being the lazy prick that I am, it's all about finding a compromise, a nice pressure that I'll just run and leave it and not fuck around with. Now, when I very first got this bike, one of my subscribers, Dave from Adventure Moto Enduro, he said, don't run lower than 25 psi on this bike unless you want to ding rims and get pinch flats and shit. And I've pretty much taken that to heart, and 25 psi for me on this bike is the sweet spot, right? So before I come out and do a ride like this, or before I go on an adventure ride, I'll check the tyres, I'll check them both, I'll pump them both to 25 psi and go. If I'm doing a multi-day ride, 2 or 3 days, I might go a little bit higher, especially if the bike's going to be fully loaded with camping gear and stuff. I might go 28, maybe as high as 30 psi, and we all know that these tyres bleed air slowly, so at least I'll know that I won't have to touch them. After 3 days, I'll get home and they'll still be at least 25 psi in there, and I'm not going to get any rim damage, pinch flats, whatever. And I can tell you now that I have not dented that rim, or either of the rims. I've never had a pinch flat on this bike yet, and I've just always kept it at least 25 psi. And do I air down ever? No, I don't. I have never ever adjusted the pressures of these tyres while on a ride. You might have seen recently in a video, I went onto the beach, fully loaded with camping gear, just hit it straight from the road, 25 psi onto the sand. No dramas. Now look, Again, it's going to depend on your tyres. If you're running a decent knobby, you shouldn't have any dramas on the sand. As long as you know you can ride the sand, keep your speed up. Obviously, going down in pressure, it's going to give you some advantage, but you can't really go low enough to bag those tyres out a heap without at least putting rim locks on it, and then you really are going to start risking pinch flats and shit and dinged rims. So to me, look, I just stick with the 25 and I don't have any dramas. But again, guys, my opinion, obviously it's all going to depend on your bike, the tyres you're running, the sidewall stiffness, how much weight you've got on the bike, what you weigh yourself, what sort of riding you're doing. But I'm telling you, just find that sweet spot where you're not getting any damage and just stick with it, man. That's my 2 cents. I'm just a lazy rider. I don't want to be dropping air pressures, getting out tyre pumps and gauges and fucking around on a ride. I just want to ride the damn thing. And when it comes to the road, 25 psi is fine. I don't understand why people feel they need to run 38 psi on the road. Like, I mean, might get a tiny bit more life out of your tyres running a bit higher pressures, but these tyres at 25 psi, with my ass sitting on this bike, and even with all my gear on there, that tyre is not bulging out at all. So, I don't understand. I've never had any dramas going through the twisties. I mean, look, you're not scraping pegs on knobbies anyway, so as long as it feels stable to you, then what's the problem, Anyway, guys, now you have my opinion on tyre pressures. Feel free to jump down into the comments there and set me straight. I don't care. I'm happy to argue with you about it, but that's just what I've found. Find your sweet spot. You don't need to put too much thought into it, but I will say, without fail, before every ride, make sure you've got your 25 or whatever your preferred pressure is. Make sure it's that before you go out, because these tyres do seep air, as I said. You might find, if you haven't ridden for a couple of weeks, you might find you've got 12 psi in the front. If you don't check it and you go out riding, hit a big rock, bang, you got a pinch flat, dented rim, whatever. So, just check your pressures before you ride. That's really my only recommendation. Oh man, people and tyre pressures, it blows me away. This bike, even with this baldy, I'm still running, I mean, I'm going some places with it, and it's got 25 psi, and I'm airing it down. Anyway, as I said, this is just my opinion, guys. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that disagree with my assessment of tyre pressures. But, I'm all about keeping it simple, stupid, and you can't get any simpler than 25 psi before you go out. Rightio, guys, as I mentioned earlier, if you're keen on any of this stuff mentioned in this video, there will be links in the description if I can find them. Some of it might be affiliate links, most of it's just whatever I can find. Oh shit, sand, rocks, what do? Do I stop and head down? Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this video has been of use to somebody out there, and stay safe, and we'll see you real soon. Cheers.